So this is a reciprocal solver. Hi, I'm Miltonchang of Bonsaiheirloom. A beautiful sunny autumn day. I will work on these 3 junipers, prostrata junipers that I planted about 12 years ago. And that's how much they've grown from a little twig to this size. And so prostrata juniper is very easy to propagate. Juniper in general is very easy to propagate. And then they grow into bonsai material very nicely in a relatively short time. 10 years is really a relatively short time. And so today I would turn these 3 trees into a clump of forest of 3 trees. And in time, I'll do 3, 2, 1, or whatever the number of trees, and then eventually combine them into a juniper of 12 trees. The bonsai will be in a big shallow pot, probably this tall, to emulate what John Naka did to memorialize his family or to honor his family of grandchildren and so forth. So between me and my wife, my son and daughter, and 6 grandchildren, I will make a forest of 10 to honor my family, in a sense of my wife and I, my 2 children, and 6 grandchildren, so that's 10, into a forest of 10. So please stay tuned, but I will make this into a clump of 3 in a 1 pot, and let it grow in a growing pot, and then take it out eventually to make it part of 12. So let's get going. Let me work on the biggest one first. So as usual, as I said, I will always take the tree. These 3 trees were dug this weekend by my gardener. You don't need to see me digging. I mean, that's struggling. And I will take it out to show you how much roots he's collected, and then work on the base first, and then work on the apex, then work my way down. So let's begin. So he just dug it, so it's easy to take it out of the pot. Just pull it out to show you. Not really that much root, no fibrous roots yet, because he just dug it out. So you can see the soil is not the very best, fairly clayey, but it's got enough drainage for juniper to grow quite nicely. But even there, you can see some roots are growing nicely. So there's enough fibrous roots to be fine. Juniper, you can go from a cutting, so this is not a problem. In fact, I should not comb out too much, but rather put it back in a pot. And this one, it's a little bit bad because it's a kind of a long one. And I really should prefer to have the fibrous roots coming out closer to the trunk. Since you see this the top, and this one is going all way down, so I might also cut it off to force the fibrous roots to grow closer to the base. So if you look at it, there's a whole bunch of fibrous roots. This is really where the tree will be. So let me just cut out this part. So that's losing some roots, but not that much. It's okay. So let me prop it up and then start to work on the top. So the root will basically start here. So I'd rather plant it right back and let it grow fibrous roots before I work on it again. Okay, now again, start with the apex. Decide where the apex is. And a tree in a forest likes to grow the apex right in the middle. So it's right here someplace. So looking at this top, there's the middle. I can make this the apex and make this branch go on the other side. Right now it's pushing up like a hump, but when this grows up, the hump will be minimal, and when this grows out, I think that should be okay. So with that in mind, then I'll choose this as the apex, and try to work from that point on, from that point down. Just get rid of all the bottom growth to accentuate the apex. So I think this is a little bit weird. This is a more interesting angle. So I'll cut this off. So this will be the apex, okay? And I don't need to clean that off too much. I can clean it off later. And looks like I cut off this one at one time. So I'll probably take a branch cutter to clean it up later, so that this will accentuate the apex. And this comes down as the side branch. And make this into a chin. Make this into a chin. Wow, oh, okay, as you work on it, you can see interesting trees. So you really need to clean off a lot of the branches to see where you're going with it. When you see so much growth, you really don't know what's going on. So I'm not faking this. This is totally dug from the tree, fresh, ground, fresh. I had no idea what it would look like. So I'm just cleaning off, not with a great deal of care, but just to clean off so I can see where I'm going with this tree. Okay. So far what I've done is to cut off all of the excess branch so I know where I'm going with it. Basically, if you're part of the forest, you need an apex that's more or less straight up from the bottom. And this is a nice straight trunk. And this is the first branch you'll feel out here. And then these are the two bigger branch. I should probably someday push this one over a little bit to open it up. But you will have a branch here, and a branch in the back. So this is not a bad anchor tree for a forest, for a clump. And that's what I would do to this tree. I haven't done very much except to clip off the redundant to form the basic design of the tree. Then I'll let this grow, and maybe put an anchor wire here to push it down. And maybe this is kind of like covering the top too much. So maybe I just cut this off, make this into a chin. So a little refinement over time. It's really quite easy in terms of what obviously you have to do in a case of forest. Nothing complicated. Just the trees had to rhyme, kind of more or less follow the nature of the orientation of the sun and the wind and so forth to kind of make it look synergistic. So that's one tree. Let me do another one. This is the second tree. Again, I'll take it out of the pot. This looks like it has a thicker trunk, so that may be the main tree. So this is actually a thicker tree. So this could very well be the main anchor tree. And again, this is sticking too far where the bonsai pot will be shallow and all that. So I might as well cut it off now. When the fibrous roots coming out, they will be right. It wouldn't be totally correct, but at least a lot of the fibrous roots will be fine. And it will be a good bit of our safeties, even though they should go now, but I'd rather have it feed the tree for a little while. So this is a reciprocal saw, very inexpensive from the Harbor Freight, and it works very well, and I love it, so I don't use the big one anymore. And this can be really useful for trimming bonsai. Let me comb out the roots a little bit, not much, because I This tree was dug recently. I don't want to disturb it too much to kill the tree. So, but I think this is getting pretty close to the top of the root, so I'm going to quit and then try to decide to work on the apex first. So that's all I'm going to do to the roots because the rootage need not be too prominent in a forest tree. The attention is on the top. So now look at this tree. Where can I make the apex? The apex should be in the middle, more straight up, because the whole tree, the motif is straight up. So I'm not going to worry too much about it, but let this, the center one, growth be the apex, and then cut off the other ones on the side to speed up the growth of the apex. And then work my way down to the next set of lower branches. And as I cut off the redundant branch, I can see where the next big branch is and so forth. Otherwise, I could not see anything. This is actually the next branch, but it's way too thick. So I think I'll choose this to be the next branch, a little bit lower. I'm going to just cut it off because when you leave a little stub, they will not grow very much, so I can clean up later rather than cut close to the base to get rid of it. The other option is to make all these the apex, which I don't think is quite a tree likes to grow. So I want to make this truly the apex, and everything else is below. Everything right adjacent to it goes away, that is. I'm just cutting off very roughly so I can see what I'm going there. Then I'll come in and refine the next cut, and then the future cut will be 6 months from now, the next real set of refinement, because then I can see where the tree is growing. But you can see I could have never see this nice branch coming out. So that's stretching quite far to the front. What I've done is I cut the second tree, clean out the bottom, got rid of a little bit of excess roots that are far down, and then make this the apex, a straight up tree. You can see this is a fairly straight tree as you expect in a forest. And then this will thicken to maybe this thick. Eventually will look rhyme. You know, it can be perfectly a natural tree, this branch coming up. This branch is going back. It fills the void. It's okay. Not great, but as part of the forest, it becomes very impressive. So now let me do the third tree very quickly. That's the smallest of the three. I'll take it out of the pot to comb out the roots. This should be a quicker one since it's smaller. And again, you can see this, the subsoil, not very good, but still that's fine for juniper. They are not very fussy, very vigorous growth. And so these are between 10 to 15-year-old cuttings. And this is probably a 10-year-old cutting. No big deal, but they're nice to make into a forest. So if I look at this, it's not as thick, but again, that's the apex, so it will become a nice lanky tree. You can see the roots start here. This is the stub. So let me just cut it off. So sooner or later I'll cut it off. And I really want to encourage the fibrous roots to grow close to the top. See this I lost quite a bit. There's plenty left. And not going to comb out much to disturb the roots, but it starts about here, so that's where it will be. So from the tree, and I'll cut it, and again find the apex. It should be along the main trunk, which obviously appears to be this tree. Here's the main trunk. This is the straight main trunk, and this is close to the center. So that would be the apex, and it can be a whole clump. So I'll leave this alone and cut off all the ones on the side. So I'll cut it down to the next thick branch. This is the closest, the first thick branch I encounter, but that really isn't thick enough. So I'm hoping to find another thick branch in the top, which is actually down here, which is fine. So this branch is going up like this. I'm going to leave this alone, let it grow thicker before I cut it. There's some green here, so this can be shooting out this way. So I probably don't need these. And maybe I need to keep this one to have a little bit of a back branch. Well, this one's not very thick, but if I cut off here, then the branch goes to the side. That makes the apex, that can supplement or complement the apex. So that should be okay. Not a great tree, but as part of the forest, it's quite fine. And like, I don't want, like this is a nice branch going down, so I don't need this. I want to accentuate the next lower branch. So you can see this branch is interesting coming down and took a jog to the side. So I'll probably kill this to accentuate that little jog, which is rather nice. This one is really kind of too close to the top, but let me keep them for a while and I can cut them off later, because that's the branch that's dominating down there at that direction. So again, I took the smallest of the 3 trees and cut back most of the growth so I can see where I'm going with this. And then trying to cut off excess growth so that the growth will be at the right places for me to reshape it the next time. So this is very bare, but gives me a conceptual idea of what the tree will become. When you try to make a clump, what you do is in this case, I'll plant it in this growing pot, which is fairly large size. This is probably 15-gallon squad. And then I'll put the 2 biggest trees in first, because those are the dominant ones. And I'll try to put the roots down. And the fact that it's curved out this way, it should be on the side, right? So because a tree in the side of the forest tend to see light that way. And then this one has a branch going out this way, so potentially I can put it over here. I'm just designing as I go, so please bear with me a little bit. I'm trying to figure out what looks good. And then I will come in and clean off, cut off a little bit of roots to fit. So to create a little bit more depth, I'll probably like the tree to be, this branch to be out that way, a little bit towards the outside of the pot. And then this little guy right in here. And slightly also tilted because it's not a straight tree. So now that you kind of decided this tree positioning this way, then what you do is that when you let it grow out, you try to not let them bump into each other to complement the growth, and not too overly heavy or have too much growth, so that you can see where the branches are going. So this is a very quick orientation of the 3 tree as a clump as part of my project to make a forest of 10 trees to honor my family. And so if this tree looks good, I can reposition them again and all that. I would do a fine tuning. And then I combine other ones in 1 or 2, 3 clumps. So put the 10 in one big, kind of a thick oval pot. And then when it's grown like a couple of 3 years, then I'll cut it or expose the bottom to a much shallower pot. So you start off with a thick oval pot. First of all, you let each individual tree grow either in a clump of 1 or 2 or 3. And then you put it in a thick oval pot to arrange in a way that you like it, and then let it grow for a few years. Then you take it out, you raise the whole thing into a shallower pot. In a sense, you put the root ball that's fairly thick into a shallow pot, so that exposes the top, and you can fine tune it and fill the bottom. And that's how you make a giant forest. I have some really big pots that will be put to use finally. I think you will really like the project to honor my family, to emulate what John Naka did. So I'm not going to do much now. I'm going to actually take the trees out, cut the roots off to fit this pot, and then put the soil back, let it grow for a year or two. And every 6 months or so, I'll show you the progress of the tree. So I thank you very much for watching this video as part of the process to create a forest of a clump of 10 juniper trees, which is actually fairly rare. The ones that John Naka used is actually Hollywood juniper, which is always straight up. The prostrata juniper tend to grow prostrated, so I actually took cuttings that are fairly straight to put it down for the forest. And to give you a little bit of preview, I finally decided I should sell you trees, saplings, probably towards the middle of the year, next year, group of 5 or 10 or whatever, so you can make your own forest. So I think you will really like what Bonsai Heirloom will offer you, but we're starting off, we need to give time for the bonsai trees to grow, and then eventually you will have them, and those will be selected material that I collected over the years, and I propagate them to make it available to you so that you don't have to do the search that I did for the last 40, 50 years. So I thank you very much for watching. Subscribe to our channel and send us email address so we can send you the appropriate material availability notices. Thank you very much, and see you next week.